everyone, welcome back for episode number 137 of the weekly playback. Since Yoon is still in town and I played 2 of his games in the last week, I thought I would have him back on my channel so we can talk about his games, and then I have some questions prepared for him to ask him about game designing. So let's just get into the games that we played in the last week. So let's talk about Vendel to Viking. This is a 2024 game designed by
Jon Manker.
And the solo mode is done by
Robin Spaton Ek.
And the art is done by
Madeleine Fjell.
And it's published by
Ion Game Design.
And it's for 1 to 6 players. Now this is first of all, this is a review copy from Ion Game Design, which I'm playing with, which I played with. So this is a game that is like worker placement. It's got like variable worker types. You've got variable player powers. You've got a map. You've got like area control going on. There's a lot going on in this game and it was really fun. So I played a 5-player game of this and he taught us the game. So that was really nice of him.
I did.
Yes. So it's nice when you can have the designer teach you the game, then you don't have to worry about going through the rule book. So I will show you, and you can, chime in at any time if I say something wrong, or if you have anything to add.
I will.
Yes, I'm sure you will. Okay, so here is one of the main boards you're going to have, and this shows you the different regions. So you have the, is that upside down? No, it's not. I thought it was upside down because it was upside down for me when I played. So you have the German Ocean, you have Gandvik and Riverlands. And so you'll see the different areas and different colors. And some locations can go either way. So they can go like become a part of the German Ocean or become a part of like Gandvik, for example, like this region. So the person who first goes there will decide which region that area becomes a part of. So you're going to have this board, and then on either side of this board, you're going to have this, and I'll show you pictures and show you what goes on here, but you're going to have little achievement structures, and I'll show you an example. So for example, here is a bronze achievement structure. So those are going to be placed onto this board and you're going to be trying to obtain them. And I'll get into how you try to obtain them when we get to that part of the game. And here is the market. You're going to have face up venture cards for each area. So I'll show you the venture cards. So for example, here are some venture cards for the Riverlands. And they all will tell you like some kind of activation power if you activate it. And I'll get into how all of that works. So each area has its own set of venture cards, and there's like a whole bunch. Like you're not going to get through all of them when you play the game. Like here is the whole stack of venture cards for all of the different areas. And then on this part of the board, you're going to have these people who you are trying to recruit. And I believe that action, what is that action called? Invest. So you're investing in different people to add to your family tree, and different people are associated with the different areas and different worker types, and that's important when you're trying to invest and add them to your family tree. So now we'll show you the different player boards that you can have. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different player boards to choose from, and there's a basic side to each player board and an advanced side. So the basic side, each person's family tree is going to look the same. So you'll see that the trees all look the same with like the coins and the circles and everything in the same spot. However, on the advanced side, each person's family tree is going to look different. So you can already see like you have coins in the center here, whereas here you have cards in the center, and so on. And each person is going to have a special ability on the advanced side. So for example, my ability when I played, I was the Silklings, is once per round, when any action requires you to add a boat, you may pay 3 coins instead of adding it. And I'll explain why you might want to do that, though I actually never did that. So how many families do we have here? We have the Silklings, we have the, you want to pronounce these names?
I can, but they are Old Norse names, so maybe you can pronounce them as well. But anyways, this is Gevisse.
And
then we have Clan Kolmine. And these are the Dulu clan. Then we have the Skildlings. And we have the Hastings. No, the Hastings. And the Wolflings.
Yep. So those are the different family trees you can play as. So I'm just
as with everything, all these are families that were prominent at the time. All the names of all the formidable persons that you can invest in are somewhat real. They may have been in sagas or they may have been in historical texts, but they are all somehow connected. So it's facts behind it as always. But it was hard to find it during this time, which take place between 550 and 793 current era.
Nice. Okay, so now I'm going to just show you some player components before we get into how to play, but I'll do a little bit of the setup before we get into how to play as well. So each player is going to have 2 longboats, and then you're going to have a number of different worker types. So you will have the merchant, which looks like this. And for each worker type, I'm trying to get it to focus, but it's not focusing right now. But for each worker type, you're going to have the active side and then the exhausted side. So the exhausted side shows you that it's been exhausted. So that's the merchant. You've got a warrior. You've got a settler. You've got a shipwright, a leader. What is this supposed to be anyway?
Key.
A key, okay. A leader, and then a seeress. So those are your different worker types, and you're going to start the game with 3 of each type, correct? And then the remaining ones are going to go onto your family tree, and you can decide where you want to place them. So any place you see a circle, you're going to place your remaining worker types, and you'll be unlocking those as you invest and add people to your family tree, and then they'll become available to use. So there are going to be some leftover ones as well. And then each person kind of has like this clan marker, which you're going to place on the main board to start the game with. So when starting the game, everyone is going to, in turn order, place their clan marker somewhere on the board. And so basically you're kind of starting with presence and dominance somewhere. I think that's all you place, right? You don't place a family member to begin the game with.
No, but you place the top venture from that pile.
Yes, so you're going to place a venture card as well. So the top one for the area that you chose. So you're going to start with dominance in an area with a venture card as well. So how this game plays basically, and there's money as well in this game. So there's coins. So this is the standard cardboard, but if you want, you can get these amazing metal coins that look like these, which we forgot to play with, unfortunately, which I wish we had. So these are really nice. And each player has some player aids, which will help you, of course. So how this game plays is this game plays over, and is it 12 rounds for everyone, regardless of player count? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So this game plays over 12 rounds, and in each round, you're just going to go in turn order, taking actions. Now, you're going to take actions until you have taken 4 actions. So the way that that is kept track of is like for some actions, when you take it, you're going to immediately, when you place a worker somewhere on the map, exhaust it immediately. So like, let's suppose for my action, I'll go over some basic actions first before I get into the actions. So the actions you can take, so basic actions, all the different worker types can do. So the basic actions are to journey, which is to move and exhaust one of your family members on any circle. So I'll just call these circles. And 2 situations each require a boat to be added to the circle. So if it's an empty circle and you want to place a venture card, or if it's in a region where you have no presence. So in that case, let's suppose I want to do the journey action. I can take any of my worker types, because any worker type can do the journey action, and I could simply put this here. But if it's a place that's empty and I want to place a venture card as well, then I would also need to use a boat. Now, when I place this is immediately going to become exhausted if I'm doing the journey action in that way. So it's immediately going to be flipped upside down, and the boat in that case also counts as an action. So you are able to take up to 4 actions in a round. So now I already have 2 actions here. So that means I have 2 actions available to me for the rest of the round. So even though I placed off the boat in the same turn as this, it's counting as 2 actions against me. And then it would be the next player's turn. So again, one of the basic actions is journey. Another action is to invest. Now, if you have dominance on a venture and an unexhausted family member that matches the talent of this circle you're in of a family member, then you can buy that family member. So again, I showed you that there was a board where you're going to have these cards laid out, and of course you're going to have a draw deck. So you need to find a family member who has the same talent type as an unexhausted worker in that location. So for example, let's see, here's Austrasia. So let's suppose I had a merchant, because this symbol is merchant symbol, in Austrasia who was unexhausted. I could invest and get this person and add them to my family tree. So you also have to have dominance in order to invest. So you have to have dominance on that area, which means you have to have more family members. And if someone has this out, you have to have more family members counting their clan symbol as well. So you're always going to be counting and keeping track of your dominance, because you can't invest unless you're dominant in the region. So it gets a little bit tricky, because as the game goes on, you're, paying attention to which of these cards are appearing on the board, as well as the cost, because in addition to needing dominance and the same talent type, you're also going to have to pay the cost as well. So you want to match your talent type in that area and have dominance in that area, and you're going to need to pay the coins in order to get this person and add them to your family tree. Yeah.
So if you have, no, I don't have a,
Let me
have
find
a green one, no?
I'll see if I can find Austrasia. It might be a little bit hard.
Yes.
Let's see. Just
to the end, I think.
To the end. German.
Oh, this is the Australia is where all those goes here. So there it would be down here. So in this case, there need to be a venture here.
Yep.
Where did it go?
It's here.
There need to be a venture here, and you have to have
the
merchant on that venture, and have more. Doesn't need to be merchant, but your workers has to be more than any other players
in order
here.
for you to have dominance.
So if there are four workers here, you have two, and two other players as one each, then you have dominance. So then you're fine. And then you can, and then this needs to be somewhere in the market available, and then you can buy it since you have that over there.
So if you have dominance by having more workers there, and again, you might need to take into consideration other people's clan symbols and, count up appropriately, as well as boats. Do boats count? No, boats don't count. Sorry, ignore that. Okay. So workers and clan symbols, you're going to have to take into consideration when determining if you have dominance. Then if this is in the market, then you need to pay the coin cost, and then you can add this to your family tree. And you can choose, so let's suppose I have this board. So you can start, do you always start at the beginning?
Yeah.
I think you always start at the bottom. So yeah, in this case, the Wolfings, they would have had some, mission cards. So at the beginning of the game, you also place out some mission cards. So they would remove one of these mission cards and add their new family member there. And then you can see these connections between different areas. That means on your next turn, the next time you invest and you get a family member, you could place it either here or here, because those are the different branches that it's connected to. So that way you can kind of decide the path that you're forming when you're getting new family members, because you might want to unlock some gold coins. Gold coins are worth 5 each. Or you might want to unlock some worker types, which you placed out in the beginning, or you might want to unlock some mission cards. I'll just talk briefly about mission cards since we just mentioned them. So there are 4 different types of mission cards in this game. There are novice, which are supposed to be the easiest to fulfill, standard, and then hard, and then legendary, which is supposed to be really difficult to fulfill. So at the beginning of the game, you can decide which 4 types of mission cards you want. So you could take one of each type. You could take, for example, 2 novice and 1 standard and 1 hard. It's up to you, correct?
Correct.
Right. So, these are pretty difficult to meet.
And that's correct for the advanced side. For the non-advanced side, since the game also, apart from being less advanced, also is a variant to play symmetrical, then you always take 1 of each, then you can't select.
Yeah, but again, they're pretty difficult to fulfill. For example, one of these legendary cards, I'll just give you an example. So this one says, have at least 6 people with different talents in your family tree. So, you know, legend, actually, I feel like that probably would have not been so difficult to me. I think I should have had that card. So,
well, it's, you know, then you really need to, what you do then, which is just as a comment for maybe later on, but this one, where you get points from getting these things, then you usually want to, you know, focus in one area so you can build outwards. If you go for that legendary, then you will really spread yourself thin to start with, so you will probably lose points here.
Yeah, but it might be a good idea to spread yourself thin. So yeah, we can talk about this since we're here. So after you invest, the worker type that you use to invest to get that family member to add to your tree, you now have to take that exhausted worker and place it upside down in the matching talent. So in this case, we used a merchant, so you would place that marker here, exhausted, in the merchant circle. So now, like I said, there's going to be different achievement statues throughout this board. So you'll see that there's some that go in bronze, there's going to be silver ones and gold ones, which are harder to meet. You're going to need to be equal to or have more workers than the other players in each circle in order to then get the bronze one. So for example, let's suppose I had a worker here that I had previously used to get a merchant type person, and let's suppose I had gotten a leader, and so I have markers in each of these, and let's suppose I have more than the other players. The next time I invest equal to or more, yeah. So the next time I invest and get either a merchant type person or a leader type person, I would put the marker here and I would immediately gain the bronze achievement. So there's different types of achievements. So again, there's bronze, there's gold, and there's silver, and then you immediately use the benefit of that achievement type. So you will see here on your player aid all the different bronze achievement types and the different silver ones. Gold ones are just straight up worth points at the end of the game. And how many points are they worth?
8.
8 each. So for example, a bronze achievement, if I managed to get the navigator, I could relocate any number of my family members on the map from one circle to another, which can be very beneficial if you're trying to gain dominance quickly in another area where another person has multiple family members present. So these different bronze achievements and silver achievements can be very beneficial, in addition to giving you points at the end of the game. So you'll also get points for the bronze and silver achievements as well as the gold. But that's how that board works. So you're going to want to start to get achievement markers, your family markers in the different types, so that you can earn these achievements. And hopefully get more than others. Like every single time I was close to getting an achievement, someone kind of screwed me over and I was prevented from getting an achievement. So in the game we played, I will say that me and one other player did not get any achievements and the 3 other players did, but the other player who did not get any achievements, she actually ended up winning the game. So you don't necessarily need achievements in order to win, but we'll talk about scoring and how all of that works when we get to the end.
Just as a little recap, because this invest action is the meat and what is called
potatoes.
Meat and potatoes of the game. Is that an expression?
All right. I use that as an expression.
It's the meat and potatoes of the game. And so you take that action. You have these prerequisites as we talked about, and what happens is that you take the card, and the card will go from the market into here, and the worker you use will go to here. So 2 things going to different places.
Yes, and then I like this part of the game, but another player thought it was a little bit fiddly, which he had no qualms about saying in front of the designer.
No problem. I welcome all kinds of comments, although I also like this market.
I like this. I like the fact, so when you take a card, then you get to rearrange the remaining cards before drawing a new one to add to this board. So you can move cards sideways and down, but you can never move a card up. So for example, let's suppose, is this the correct way? No. Yeah. So let's suppose there was a card you really wanted here that was expensive, and you somehow you know, took a card from here, you can try to move cards in such a way to get the card you want in a future turn to be less expensive. So you can move cards sideways and down, but never up. So you can also pay attention to what other people might be going for based on, you know, where they have their workers and where they have dominance. You can see that from the board. So you can try to screw over people that way as well. But I like being able to move the cards around. Another player thought it took a bit of too much time, you know, because after every time someone would invest, they would then examine the board and see where they want to move the cards before placing
It is
one.
true that it might add analysis paralysis if your playgroup have a tendency towards that. But it's also true that this one, you can usually do that and the next player can continue their turn. So you might be able to speed things up a bit.
So far we've discussed two basic actions which you can do with any worker, which is to journey and invest. The third basic action you can do on your turn is to activate. So if you have dominance, you can exhaust any family member to activate the venture ability. So all of these venture cards have some kind of ability on them, and some of them will have an ability which you kind of need to keep track of. Oh, this one's interesting. It's Muslim Alliance. So this one says, this round you may invest from the Riverlands region without matching the region name. Like, so what are the circles called? Are those called regions? What are the regions, the circles called?
The circles are called...
Because the greater area is called the region,
regions.
like the German Ocean is the region. So I'm wondering what the circles are called.
We'll
call them villages for now.
I can just double check.
So yeah, so you can, and so let's suppose you activated this by exhausting a worker and you had dominance on this. So again, you have to have dominance in order to activate a venture card. Then,
they're called location.
Location. So you can, in this, after activating this card, you would place your family member that you used to activate it on top of the A, and it shows you it's an ongoing ability for the rest of the round. So everyone can see that it's activated and you don't need to remind people. So then for the rest of the round, you as a player can invest from the Riverlands region without matching the location type. So that means, again, you can take any card type that belongs to the Riverland without matching the location type, because otherwise you have to match the location as well. And then it says you still need to match the region and talent. So you still need to be in the correct region, which would be Riverlands, and you would still need to match the talent type with your worker. So all these different venture cards have different abilities on them, which you can activate as one of the basic actions. And again, a basic action any worker can do. Was there something you wanted to add to that?
No, it sounds fine.
Okay. So now let's go into the specific worker type actions. So on your turn, let's suppose you have a worker on a location that's not exhausted. You could do one of these actions. And you might be wondering, well, how do you get a worker on a location type that's not exhausted? Because if you do the journey action, you have to immediately exhaust that worker. And so I'll just quickly explain right now, and then I'll explain in more detail later. But at the end of the round, after everyone has used 4 actions, you're going to flip over all the workers to make them active, unexhausted, and they will remain in place. So as the game progresses, you're going to have more and more workers on the board, and you'll be able to use their actual worker abilities in subsequent rounds since they're unexhausted. So now let's talk about the different worker actions. So for merchant, let's suppose you had an unexhausted merchant somewhere in a location. You can gain 1 coin per region where you have presence. Now, if you have presence, you said that means you have to have dominance in a certain location. So yes. Let's suppose you had...
And that location needs to have a venture.
It has to have a venture card. So let's suppose you had a venture card in the Germanic Ocean and the Riverlands, and you had dominance in 2 locations in those regions. Then you would get to collect 2 coins by exhausting your merchant. It says optionally as well, draw 3 people from the deck, then choose 1 to replace in the top row of the invest board and discard it, and the other 2 drawn. So yeah, so you can draw 3 cards and replace 1 from the top level of the board. That's optionally something you can do. Settler, if you have an unexhausted settler, you can, by exhausting it, you can place 1 unexhausted family member in the location that you're currently in. And then it says optionally, if you have 2 or more mission cards in hand, then draw 2 to hand and discard 3. So that's really good if you have mission cards that you think you're not going to be able to meet. Yeah, I'm not sure if I ever took the settler action when I played the game. Warrior, I definitely took the warrior action. So
You definitely did.
so if you have an unexhausted warrior, you can kill 1 co-located family member of another player, plus 1 more per unexhausted warrior you have in the location. So it's really great if you have 2 unexhausted warriors, you will use one of them exhausted to do this ability, but you'll get to kill 2 family members of another clan in that location. So that's a great way to get dominance.
And I like that little flavor, that little tweak to the action of you know, a warrior. So if you have a bigger army, it's a great way to simulate it. If you have an army of 3 warriors, you can in theory kill 6 on that turn, because the second action will only have 1 more unexhausted, and the last one, they both are exhausted. So you will kill 3, 2, and 1.
The next one is shipwright. So if you have an unexhausted shipwright in a location, you can move the shipwright to any location, bringing up to 2 of your family members along from the location where the shipwright was. So this is a great way to move across the board, and it doesn't have to be adjacent or anything like that. So if there's another area where you see you want dominance, you can take your shipwright and 2 family members, and the family members can be exhausted, correct? They don't have
They can be, and they
Yeah.
don't become exhausted by traveling, and that's
Yeah.
the important thing of shipwright and any kind of place. When it says place somewhere, you place them unexhausted so they can act the
Yes,
same.
but the shipwright will become exhausted
yes.
since you just used their ability.
Exactly.
But it's a great way to move your family members and try to gain dominance in other regions, locations.
For example, 2 warriors, as you did.
Yes, I did that, yeah. So optionally, you can add a boat to the destination if it is in a region where you do not have presence. Leader, you can take 1 coin from a player with a co-located family member. And then optionally, I did the optional action. You can discard the venture card and replace it with the top venture card from the pile matching the region on the map. And I don't know if I mentioned, but all of these draw piles for the venture cards are face up. So you can always see what the ability, the action is going to be on the next venture card for a particular region. So that can be very helpful. And then finally, the Cirrus. You can remove 1 co-located family member of another player and place 1 of yours matching its talent. And then it says add a boat to the location. So the Cirrus is very powerful. So in that case, you would have to add a boat. And as I mentioned earlier, a boat is going to count as an action against you. So let's suppose you already have 3 exhausted workers on the board, indicating you've used 3 out of your 4 actions. You could not activate a Cirrus, because then this would bring you over 4, because the Cirrus would have to be exhausted and then the boat would be added, counting as an action tick, so that you would not be allowed to do, because now you would be exceeding 4 actions in a round. And Toffee wants to join us. Okay. So yeah, so that is the Cirrus action. So just to explain a little bit how that works, if I have a Cirrus in a location, I can remove 1 worker type of a co-located family member of another clan. So let's suppose I removed a warrior of theirs, then I would have to have a warrior available to now add to that location, and my Cirrus would become exhausted. And of course I would have to add a boat, which means it counts as 2 actions. So again, everyone's going to take turns in turn order in a round until everyone has used up 4 actions. So those are the actions. So at the end of a round, you're going to have cleanup, right?
Called generation shift.
Generation shift. So at the end of the round, you're going to resolve any end of round effects in turn order. You're going to unexhaust all family members, which we talked about. So you're going to flip them up to their active sides and return all boats to people. Then you'll advance the starting player marker. And then advance the round tracker. And again, there are 12 rounds in a game. That may seem like a lot, but trust me, as people are starting to undo things that you've done, you know, you're setting yourself up to try to take an action, and then someone has completely undone what you've done, and you need to, you know, change your strategy mid-round. Like 12 rounds, I feel like will go by quickly. Like, you know, it did take a couple hours to play this last night, but you know, it was one of those games where at the end of the game, I was still wishing for more time so that I could have done more things that I wanted to do because other players just kind of kept on screwing me over. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like about 3 hours playtime.
For 5 players.
And there was 5 players, and all 5 were new to the game.
Yes, all 5. Well, not you. You
not
were
me. So the
4 were new to the
were
game.
new. One was pretty experienced, and that meant
Yes.
that the one explaining rules, so the rules explanation went relatively fast. I mean, no one need to read them, but the four of the players had quite a lot of questions, and you understand the situation.
Yeah, so that was the game. So at the end of the game, so I hope that kind of gives you an idea of how it plays. So throughout the game, you're going to have like family members. You're going to be like activating different family member abilities to try to invest and get people in your family tree. You're going to be trying to unlock your like gold coins, which you start with the game with, so that's a good way to get money, because money can be hard to come by in this game. So if you want to invest and get more family members, you might need some venture cards, which give you money, or you might want to try to get the gold coins, which your board has by putting family members there, or you might want to use the merchant action. So, you might end up spending some turns trying to get money and stuff. But basically, you're using all your different family abilities in order to, try to get the most points. You're trying to get these like different achievements, which will give you special abilities. And yeah, it's just a really fun game with a lot of strategizing. There is Take That in this. So if you're not a fan of Take That, you might not enjoy it. I get frustrated when someone undoes what I've done, but I still think it makes the game fun. So I still enjoy games with Take That, even though it can be frustrating.
And I would say it's not as much undoing what you have done, but it's like removing the carpet under your feet for your preparation. Because when you set something down, if you have taken one of those achievements, for example, then it's yours, and there's no one who can do anything about it. But they can, you can set up this preparation, and someone comes in and breaks your dominance, or a series come in and converts you to their family, or different things can happen. So that kind of Take That, it's definitely present.
Yeah, so for example, in the game we played, I was trying really hard to invest in a certain character, so I was trying to gain dominance in a certain location, but it turns out the other player had a mission card where he needed dominance in that area. So we just kept on going back and forth, where I would like kill his character, and then he would kill mine, then I would kill his, like, just trying to compete for dominance in this area. So I think, as you said last night, this is a game in which really, what did you say, strong-headed or stubborn people might not succeed?
Yeah, well, the people may, but if they keep that as their tactic, it's probably a losing tactic.
So eventually I had to give up because I knew that he was not giving up and I was just wasting time. So I had to just, change strategy.
What you did weaken him, so you both lost a bit of points or tempo on that. And I think this is, it's somewhat intentional, because I like that fact, that way, that I like that in games, if you have the ability, which I am inspired to from the game Go, where I feel that the one who leaves a position first and starts somewhere else gains tempo, and that's really strong. And or that's an important factor anyways. And the same thing here, if you early on can see, all right, I shouldn't go here. Now all the things are aligned in a way that it's smarter for me to go somewhere else, and the one to see that first definitely has an advantage.
Yeah. So let's go to end game scoring now. So at the end of 12 rounds, you're going to get points for a variety of things. So do you need the rule book to remind yourself?
No.
Okay. So the first thing you're going to get points for, I believe, is the different areas in which you have dominance, right?
Exactly. Locations on
the
the
circles.
Map, so
yeah.
These ones. Each one of them, where you have dominance, will give you 2 points. Anybody else who has no dominance there, 0 points.
Correct. And then you're going to get points for your achievements. So all the different achievements, whether bronze, gold, or silver, are worth points. So how many points are bronze achievements worth?
Bronze are 4, silver are 6, and gold are 8.
Yep. And then you will get points for any mission cards you completed.
Yes, and those are the 4 novice standard. They are 3, 5, 7, and 9 points for novice standard, hard, and legendary.
And then you'll get points for venture cards. So some of these cards actually give you endgame points. I'm trying to find one because I had one, which will say like, you know, you need to have these family members present on this venture card. Oh, here's one. So this one says, if you have a leader, a shipwright, and a merchant here at the end of the game, gain 5 points. So, you know, a bunch of these different venture cards will give you end game points. And if multiple clans have all of those family members present, the multiple clans will all gain the 5 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And some of them are also taken away at certain occasions, put outside like less graveyards, and then things can be scored as points from those as well. But if it do, you always find this star, as you can see there. Anything that scores you points is indicated by the star.
Was there anything else? Did we miss anything that you would get points for?
No, I don't think so. It was when we talked about the mission cards. And the mission, maybe we should say that they are pretty important to unlock on yours, because you don't see your missions from this. You choose which difficulty level, but you don't know which missions you have. They are hidden for you until you place someone on this family board. Then you get to take the mission and see it, and then you know what you can gain point from for that mission. So the missions contribute a good portion of points as well. I could also say that if you play a 5-player game, so the game plays points-wise a bit different depending on the player count, which I also like because it adds to variety. So when you're many players, 5 or 6 for example, then the missions tend to be more important because the dominance is harder because there are more players on the map, and the achievements are harder because there are more people grabbing them. Whereas if fewer player counts, the achievements you usually dig deeper into the achievement tree, and you usually get a bit more points also actually. But it's also easier to counter the dominance on the map, so it's usually a more cutthroat dominance situation on the map. Whereas yesterday the winner ran away with the game because she did all these dominance things, whereas no one really paid attention to what she was doing.
Yeah, so I'll just talk a little bit about last night's game. So again, you know, we just went through all the things you score for, and then whoever has the most points wins. So last night's game, the person that I thought was going to win ended up coming in, let's see, what place did he come in? He came in 4th place. So the person I thought was going to win ended up coming in 4th place. And the reason I thought he was going to win was because he was the one who had 2 bronze achievements. So one player who came in 2nd place had 1 bronze achievement. The winner had 0 achievements. You had 1 achievement. I had 0. And then the person who I thought was going to win had 2 achievements. But the winner, so she didn't have any achievements, but she gained 20 points from dominance. I only had 2 points from dominance, which was really terrible. And then the winner, she gained 14 points from mission cards. The person who I thought was going to win, because, you know, I guess I was just like looking at achievements, but the person, that person had only 3 points from mission cards. And then venture points, you know, we were all close to each other in venture points, but the person I thought was going to win got 10 points from venture points. But it seems like dominance really is important to pay attention to. And I think, you know, the rest of us maybe weren't paying as much attention, or at least I wasn't. I lost really, really badly. Like the scores are, you know, my score is very abysmal. So I'll just tell you the scores. So the winner had 38 points. Then the next person had 36. And then you had 33. And then the person I thought was going to win had 27. And then I had 14. So,
oh, you disclosed that embarrassing detail?
Yes, right. I did. Yeah.
No.
So those were the scores.
Yeah. No, but you played well. You just, I would say you didn't think about the dominance factor, and you were too stubborn in some of the fights that
I was
occurred.
very
Those
stubborn.
2 things were like your downfall.
Yeah, I was really stubborn. Like if I wanted dominance in a certain area, I would spend too many turns trying to get it rather than just, you know, changing strategy. Like, yeah. I would definitely love to play this again because it was a lot of fun, and I would try to be less stubborn and see if that helps me get more points.
Yeah. There was something else I was thinking about when it comes to points. Yeah, so it's also something that I like when I did these, is that the points are, you get different point tracks, you get different paths to victory, which is important, but the points also have a different flavor to them. So the achievement points might, for at least when you play the first time, it's really nice with these big, you know, standees that you want to take, and but they don't give necessarily, unless you get quite a lot of them, they're not, you know, more points than for example a bunch of play. The gold standee is 8 points, and that's 4 locations, so that seems, you know, they might seem more valuable than they are, but they are different because you can't counter them. When you're taking them, you're safe, so you really bank the points to be yours, whereas if you go for dominance, other people see, you know, in all glory what you're doing if they look at it, and they can very easily counter it. So they're much more fragile, and then you also have the standees are points, but maybe the most important thing is the combotastic thing you can get if you manage to take it at the right occasion, and the immediate effect really plays into your hand. And then you have the missions, which is like a secret thing that you can work on long term, but you have to unlock them, so there's a strategy to how to do that. And then you have the points on the ventures, which is more they're more like the fragile location points or venture points, but they are less fragile. You see what people are doing, but usually no one cares, since 2 people can get the same points, so someone just go there and take the points as well. So they have different flavors. I like how that makes the game a bit both different pathways to victory, but also that you can the way you gain points is different.
Yep. So I really enjoyed this game, and thank you to Ion Game Design, again, you, for this review copy.
Yeah, well, Ion is not only me, and we were many people involved in the creation of this game.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, thank you to Ion Game Design for this review copy. It's a really fun game, and I would recommend it for sure. Yeah.
And you have the gold coins are an add-on as well. We sent you the promo pack.
There's a promo pack here as well. Yeah.
Which adds some ventures, but also something we used in promo pack for Vendel for Pax Viking, which is card that adds new rules to the game, and you select one at the start, or this little rule on how you select it, but then you get a game-wide rule tweak. That's a way of adding replayability that I really have seen work well in playgroups.
Yeah, it's really fun that there's round cards. I don't know if I've ever played another game with round cards. Yeah.
Round because of the round shape of Viking shields, but it's also because of the map. Both this and the Pax Viking map, it's easier to fit these in a more organic way, and some of the places would have been too crammed if they weren't round. It came from Pax Viking, and we just followed the path from there to make round items on the map.
Nice. So yeah, so that was Vendel to Viking, and if that sounds like something you're interested in, then you should check it out. Yes, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Pax Viking Junior. Now this is a 2024 game for 2 to 6 players, designed by
Jon Manker.
And it's the art is done by
Madeleine Fjell.
And it's published by
Ion Game Design.
Yes. So this is like a junior version of Pax Viking, which I haven't played yet. But in this junior version, you're playing as different cat families, and you're trying to befriend different animals. So I played a 4-player game of this, which I really enjoyed. Like, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it, considering I thought it would be a game geared towards children. So the age range for this game is actually 6+, but I think even as adults you could enjoy this. Yeah. So you have different cat families, and so it's for 6 players, so I'll just show you the different cat types. So you've got this like spotted looking cat, like really pretty cat. You've got this cat. Yeah. You've got this orange kitty cat, gray cat, pretty gray cat. You've got this pink one.
The pink player is gray cat.
This blue one, which looks like a Russian blue cat, really beautiful. I love Russian blues. I'm actually wearing my cat sweater because of this game. And then finally, this cat, which looks like Toffee. So maybe I'll take him out, just because he looks like my Toffee, almost. Yeah. So all of the players except Pink are going to have 2 big adult cats. And then each player is going to have a number. How many small ones? 10?
8, I believe.
8? Okay.
Or 10, I think.
8 or 10. I think it's 10. I think you have 10 small cats. And then each person has a boat, a long boat, of course, because it's a game about Vikings. So in this game, oh yeah, and let me show you the different family boards, because you are going to also have asymmetrical player powers in this game as well. So each cat family has a special type of ability, which you'll see on the sail of the boat. Yeah. So the pink cat, their special ability is that they come with 3 adult cats rather than just 2. So yeah, so that's their special ability. Another cat special ability is when they get a coin, they get 2 coins instead. So yeah. So, you know, there's just different special abilities for the different cats. So you're going to have a map here. Yes, please. So you'll see on this map different locations, and you'll see white lines. When you're moving on your turn, you can move up to 2 spaces. Is that correct?
3.
3 spaces. You can move up to 3 spaces. A move counts as when your boat moves over a white line. So you can't cross these black lines, because that's like, you just can't do that. So if you move over a white line, so let's suppose you move from Denmark into this sea here, that would be 1 movement. Then you cross this white line, that would be your 2nd movement, and then you could end up in this island as your 3rd movement. So anytime you cross over a white line, that is one of your movements that you are using.
And the reason why the black one can't be crossed is because you couldn't go with boats there. There are no rivers and there's no water. So historically, geographically, that's the white lines represent this.
Yeah, so he's made it so it's accurate in terms of geography and how boats could actually move.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah, okay,
Correct.
you can put it down. So basically, in this game, oh, and you're going to use the cover of this game. So the cover looks like a sea, and you're going to be putting a bunch of different animal tokens into the box. So I'm just going to do that. And you're going to have them upside down, of course. But they're not upside down. All of them are not upside down right now, but just pretend that they are. And these different animal tokens will show you different types of animals on them. So for example, this is a horse, and it shows you 2, what are those, scrolls? Knowledge. 2 knowledge and 1 coin. You might get a fish. Some of them, so for each animal type, there's going to be 1 that has 2 animals of that type on it. So there will be 1 of these tokens that will have 2 animals of 1 type. And so for each animal, there's going to be 1 of those. So like, for example, 2 piggies. So the objective of this game is you're moving around trying to gain dominance in the different areas by having cats present in order to meet these special objective cards that are visible to everyone. And once someone has met one of those cards, is it 1 of them or? 1. They will win the game, right?
Yep.
Okay, so where are those? Oh, here we go. So yeah, so I don't remember how many are visible.
I think you show 2 yellow and 2 green. You can also play a simple variant of it where you get victory conditions only by having coins or knowledge, which will effectively make the game, you know, end at around 5 or 6 turns. But then if you want to play without these, then you have to follow one of the other conditions.
So at the start of the game, all players will be able to see these cards, these mission cards, which you are trying to achieve 1 of them, and the player who achieves 1 of these first will win the game. Yeah. So the green ones are a little bit, I guess in some ways you could say easier maybe, and the yellow ones are a little bit more difficult because they require a unique animal of each type. So basically how this works is you're on your turn moving a cat, your boat I mean rather, up to 3 spaces, right?
Yep.
And then you can place down a cat. So you can choose to put down one of your small cats, and then you would... Kittens, that's right, small. You can put down a kitten and leave that kitten there. And then when you place down a kitten, you also are going to draw 2 of these blindly because they're going to be upside down, and you're going to decide which of them you want to put in that area because you're trying to befriend these different animal types. And the person who puts down one of these is the one who will gain the reward on the bottom. So in this case, if I decided to put down this chicken, I will gain 2 coins and a knowledge. Coins and knowledge are great because you can turn in 2 of one type in order to do an extra of something. Right?
Yes,
so you can get an extra movement, or you can draw 3 of these by spending 2 knowledge or 2 coins, and then decide between 3 of them which one you want to put down in a certain area.
And you can also put down 3 kittens. Normally you put down 1 or 2 kittens, but if you pay 2 or 1 kind of resource, you can put down 3 kittens that turn if you want.
Right. So another player could come along into the same region and put down kittens as well and gain dominance in that region. So whoever has dominance in a region is the friend of that animal, which is working towards completing one of these mission cards. So that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to explore new areas, put down these animal tokens, and befriend those animals by having your cats have dominance in that area. Now the big cat can come along and kick out the smaller cats, the kittens, but big cats cannot be removed. So let's suppose I come along somewhere in a region where, in a location where I have 1 kitten and someone has 3 kittens, and I decide I really want to be the friend of the animal in that location. I can come along, kick out all the kittens, including my own kitten. So my own kitten would come back to me, which I can now use again, and my big adult cat will now be there, but adult cats cannot be removed.
Yeah, so that's a permanent placement.
It's a permanent placement. And again, the pink one is the one that comes with 3 adult cats as their special ability. So once an adult cat is somewhere, you cannot gain dominance of that region if someone else already has dominance of it. So it's just a really fun game in which you're moving your boats around, you know, trying to uncover these animal tokens and befriend the animals by having the most cats in a certain region.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, it's technically you put down these ones first, and then you choose if you want to put a kitten there. You said it in the reverse order.
I'm sorry.
So you don't need to spend your kittens in order to see these. And sometimes they contain animals that you already have a friend somewhere, and you don't want to spend kittens, and then someone else can come and go there. And if there's already a tile, they can just put kittens down there instead. I should also say that in the case the whole map is full, you can start replacing these when you go to
only
somewhere.
if the whole map is full.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that is Pax Viking Junior, and like I said, I played a 4-player game of this with all adults, and we all enjoyed it. In fact, we played it twice.
Yeah.
So we played it 2 times in a row. Yeah. So we enjoyed it. It's a fun little game, and so if you have kids, I think it's a great introduction to kids, but the adults who are playing with the kids would also enjoy it, I think.
Yeah, I would say so. We had a bunch of interns coming to Ion, and they started playing. They always start by playing a few hour games, and 23-year-old programmer interns. And when they played Pax, I think they played it 5 times. This was the one that stuck, and they were really battling it out with this kids game. Unexpected but fun that they really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and of course I love it because it's cats. Like I remember seeing this game at Essen, and I think I wanted a review copy at that time, but I wasn't able to get one at Essen. And I was like, oh my god, a Viking game with cats in it! Like I just have to have it.
Now you have it.
Yes, and now I have it. Yes, so I will always, love this game because it looks like my toffee, isn't it? Yeah. Unfortunately, there's no tuxedo cat in this game.
No.
That needs to be remedied.
That might be, but maybe we should do some add-on in the future where people can have their own cats.
Or an expansion with new cat types.
An expansion with new cat types, and that could be, types that people wish for.
Yeah, because who doesn't love cats? Yeah. So
who doesn't love cats? No.
Exactly. So that was Pax Viking Junior. Yeah. Yes. So if it sounds like something you're interested in, or your kids might be interested in, then you should check it out.
I should also say many people who have reviewed this or talked about it say that they like that this one presents in a way that 6-year-olds still can play, presents pretty senior mechanics such as variable player powers, end game conditions,
area control,
and those things, and resource management. So, but it's done in a way that works for kids, and I'm happy it turned out that way.
Yeah. Awesome. So that was Pax Viking Junior. So check it out. So let's move on. So, since Jon Manker was still in town, I wanted to interview him as a designer because last time we spoke to him as working for a publishing company. But this time I want to ask him questions as a designer. I thought it would be fun to get a little bit of insight into his designs, especially now that I've had a chance to play 2 more of his games. Previously, I had played his Moomin Stegagets game, and that was the only game I had played. So are you ready to get started?
I am ready.
Ready. Okay. So the first question is, how does being Swedish impact your game designs? So you can answer this in terms of theme, aesthetics, whatever.
Yeah, well, aesthetics, I like the fact that you bring aesthetics into game design because I am one who believes there are aesthetics in game rules. When it comes to being Swedish, I'm not sure if there is a real Swedish style to game design at the moment. Sweden is pretty much affected by, inspired by, global gaming trends. So, but there is quite a lot of game design bubbling from the surface underneath in Sweden because of a few famous games that's come lately, and also the strong digital industry. So there might be, I can't say what, but I would say that it's an interesting thing to think about. What are the aesthetics of Swedish game design in general, and in my case then board game design in particular. When it comes to theme, of course, I mean, I have done a couple of Viking games, and that's because I'm related to Vikings, and then this has been passionate for me, partly because, and also the themes of the Viking games in themselves, I think is affected by me being from Sweden, where we know that the Vikings were more than pillaging monasteries in England and dominating and being, invading Paris a couple of times. It wasn't pillaging and warfare. It was like 5% of the things that was going on. Sure, they were warmongering in some aspects, but to a high degree, westwards, southwards, whereas the eastwards and down to the Black Sea and those areas were more about journeying, exploring, and building empires, and in front of all trading. So in Vendel to Viking, for example, there are I think 9 actions, out of which 1 has to do with any kind of warrioring. The others are various kinds of network building and that kind of things. So I think that also that flavor of choosing particularly Viking games and how they are presented comes from me being from the Nordic countries. Then as being, I also have to say that being from Sweden and being a game designer, although I think board games is very, very, very important and has so much to give society, it is still kind of luxury consumer product. You don't buy board games if you have a bit hard to get to make ends meet and have food on the table. So and the same thing with designing board games. It's a bit of a luxury thing to do, and fortunately the Nordic countries in general, and not the least Sweden, we are fortunate to have a safe and secure way of living in a society where you can feel you don't need to worry as much as maybe in some other areas. It's safe. You will never go hungry if you're falling out. There is always some kind of safety nets. Of course, there will be sacrifices, but you're taken care of, and there is a high degree of security in employments. Hospitals are basically free. Education, all the levels, all up through university, are free. So there's many things that you need to worry about in other places that I think you can pursue this hobby in a more, maybe not all the way professional as I've done, but a more semi-professional way. So yeah, that's just having that freedom, and I think that has brought. Sweden has a unusual. Sweden has a lot of entrepreneurship, and there's a lot of services and things coming from Sweden which hasn't to do with board game, but the entrepreneurship mindset, I think, is nurtured by this security in the society. So that's what brought us, such as, you know, the initial things for YouTube, the Spotify, the Skype, the Minecraft, the Battlefield series, or so many things in the digital industry, and tons of other things. You can check how many inventions are and such. So yeah, that's a few things about what I think is good.
Oh, that's very interesting. Like, I never really thought about how being from a nation that, you know, so is Sweden a socialist country, right?
Sweden has had a social democratic government from 1930s up until 1970s. It's not socialist, but there's like socialism parts of the society
Right.
installed in those areas.
Yeah.
Today, however, much of that has shifted, and today Sweden is probably one of the, some people have written about this, and for good, for better or worse. I mean, it's also, but it's one of the cheapest places to be rich in. There is very little tax on wealth.
But it's a country that takes care of its people and ensures that everyone has what they need in order to survive. And I think,
yes, in that regard, yes, there are many reforms, and the government is strong in this regard, and people trust the government in most cases.
I mean, that's, you know, I think people in the board game hobby realize that board gaming is kind of a luxury hobby because it's expensive, but I never really thought about that from a design perspective, that, you know, because even in America, a lot of board game designers have a full-time day job, right? Like, I'm trying to design a board game, but there's no way I could ever give up my full-time day job to do content creation or board game design. So that's an aspect I never thought about. That's very interesting. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your insight on being Swedish into board gaming design. So let's move on. So I think you've kind of already answered this, but why Vikings? Because you have a number of games that you've designed that are about Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, that's my I am related to Vikings through a very probable chain back to Harald Hairfair, which was a Norwegian king. But I also like many of the aspects of the Viking culture, and I think there is things that they had. The description of them came from people who kind of demonetized them. No, not demonetized.
Demonized?
Demonized. They didn't demonetize
Vilify,
them.
demonize.
They vilify and demonize them. So I think there is many aspects of Vikings in terms of equality, in terms of, you know, what is called when you're curious about things and trying, and ambition and so forth, which was somewhat lost. And then I like those things about Vikings as well. And then, of course, I mean, I am from Sweden, and this is an important part of the Swedish culture, so it's fun to spread that. I would love to do other things, which I have plans for about local culture, but it's not that I only want to do that. I really think there are wonderful things and themes all over the world, so I want to celebrate them all. Yeah, so Vikings come from my heritage and my belief that there is more to this culture than normally is presented.
Nice. Thank you. So how much research went into making the game Vendel to Viking? Or Pax Viking as well?
I would say, and Pax Viking as well. I would say...
Because you said you tried to make it historically accurate and use people from this time period as well.
Since we also do we research to get, you know, make the mechanics as well tied to, logically somehow inspired and tied to what the history of the period was, and the selected, you know, it's a curated selection, and it's not at all, it's no simulation, but it's like the sandbox of events will fall into place into a certain game system, and we've done this now for 36 games almost, but 30 plus games anyway. So we really have a method, and but this method means that it takes a lot of time to research as well. And in the case of Vendel to Viking, which might have been one of the heaviest on the research side, we have so many formidable persons due to combinatorics in the game. We needed quite a lot. We have all the places, and these all needed both, you know, some relevance, some connection to certain places, and fluff text. And we have tried to, and I think achieved, to get real people for all these areas, and real, relevant market things going on, like fur trade or swordsmithing or something, in all of them. So, and they're all different. So that's a lot of thought going into creating the cards. So maybe even more time went to research than to actual game design, if we talk about the design factor. But then if you factor in play testing, then of course the design part of it took much more time. But actually writing rules and coming up with mechanics and doing that, I think, took slightly less than the research.
But for the research, did you hire like a historian to like fact check things or anything like that?
Now we have fact checking through we collaborate with a, I think this was World Book, yes. So we collaborate with a American publisher called World Book, who makes encyclopedias for young people, and a bunch of other books as well. So they have fact checked it, and we always have, there are many people, fortunately we have dedicated players who really like to invest their interest and time in our project. So we usually send it to some people who are play testing the games we have and might be expert in certain areas. And we also did quite a lot of fact checking ourselves. I mean, I come from an academic background and several others at ION, so we do thorough work in that regard.
Nice, thank you. How long, and I know this might vary from game to game, but if you can give me like a general idea or just talk about one game in specific, how long to design a game from conception to production?
Okay, from conception to production, I would say, so when you say production, you mean when we start
like once
producing
it actually,
the game?
no, once it actually goes off, the files are sent. Yeah.
When we send the files to the manufacturer. Yeah. So I would say 6 to 12 months.
6 to 12 months.
Depends on, how many other parallel projects there are and how many other things. And having said that, these 6 months, or I would say maybe 4 to 8 months rather, because these 6 months have usually gaps in them, and we have things we call such as marination, where we deliberately have a 2 to 3 month gap just to be able to go back and see the game with new eyes. It might be release windows, it might be that we need to match, and other factors that has to do with business development to do. So usually these 4 to 8 months are not back to back, so it might take a longer time. It might take that's why it takes 6 to 12 or even 18 months from concept, from spark in the head to games sent to manufacturer, or files sent to manufacturer.
And this is because it can take you, like, I would say that is almost a short amount of time, like when you talk about game design, but that's because you do it full time. It's your full-time job.
Me and 10 other people at ION, are actually more than that, because there's like 10 equivalent full-time jobs, but spread out on maybe 15 to 20 people involved that are sitting in Stockholm and also in other places in the world. But in front of all, I think it's we are quite fast in our way, and that's partly because me and Besimi Yannick, who are
she's the CEO, right?
She's the CEO, and we are the one upper management of the company, and I'm the founder, so we are together running the upper management. So we are we work very much with evaluating and constantly iterating also upon the production processes and the way we do businesses. And we are both very pragmatic, and we work very well together in this way. And that has made us good to be able to find the best pathways to do this. And that, combined with we had a business ambition, which was to enlarge the catalog for various reasons. So we did that for the last 5 years, during which we made between 4 and 6 games per year, and that's also or 3 to 6, and that also forced us to find very, very efficient ways to do this. Now we have shifted, so now we will, for various reasons, focus more on enriching those games we already have, and maybe adding 2 games per year rather than 4 to 6. But the efficiency is still there, and
Nice.
Those areas, those reasons.
Thank you. So in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge a game designer faces?
Well, I think one thing is that you need to listen to the game, because you can't plan for the game. There's so many things that are, and maybe more than any other art form, I would say, where you don't really know how it's going to be. You don't know where the flow comes into the game, where the fun comes into the game, and you can just turn small knobs, and all of a sudden a game can be broken. Which other art form? This photograph is, yeah, sure, the shot, maybe the focus is out of focus, but that's an artistic choice. It's not like broken in the same way as a game can be. Music in some degree can be broken if it's, the harmony is wrong or something, but that's also, still you can listen to it, but the game can just stop and fall apart if it's broken. So you have the faculty of it can break easier than many other things. You have, very hard to foresee things like flow and fun, and, this, how people can see the level of discernibility, how you can see enough information, not too little, not too much, to make a consistent flow of meaningful decisions in the game. All of these is hard to predict. I would say only can really work with them using playtesting. And during this playtesting, you need to be very open to what the game tells you.
Okay, thank you. To go along with that, what is your least favorite part about designing a game?
Okay, good question. Don't know anybody asked me that before. The least important. So I like to come up with new things all the time. I'm a little bit of a visionary, and sometimes doing tedious chores such as proofreading and coming up with not coming up with abilities for, like, we had 200 cards or so, there were 100 something cards, and coming up with abilities for those, that's fun. I really like to know, and I have ways to do that. I write down different factors and try to multiply and enrich each other and such. But then to sort that into certain grids, it's not really game design, but still, and I'm fortunate enough to have super duper good people like Robin and Matti, who works at Ion, who do like Adobe files and do because I'm not doing that. I have to draw the line somewhere, and there's so much other things to do. So I'm happy that I don't. But if you are an up and coming game designer and usually don't have a team, to sit there and do those things, that's not really my forte, and that is normally something a game designer have to deal with to some degree, and to me that's a very boring task.
Okay, thank you. But now on the flip side, what is the most fun part of game designing?
The most fun part of game designing, I think, is the most fun stage of a game design is like, if we sort it up in 6 stages, I would say maybe stage 2 and 3, when the game goes from when you start getting a first prototype done, and it really blows up and becomes all these, and you just throw in new ideas all the time and see what sticks, and also then it is in a situation where you have to cut away things, and that's also interesting, but not maybe as fun as that design part. And then, as you might experienced yesterday when we played Vendel to Viking with some people, I really like playing the game together with some dedicated and great people who play it and enjoy it, and it's rewarding, really.
Nice, thank you. And I don't know if this is something that you as a designer have any input on. I mean, for you it might be different since you're also the founder of the publishing company which you work for. But how do you decide what art style to use for a game?
We have had an in-house artist for quite some time. We still have. We had at the time 3 artists. For various reasons, we have 1 artist, and our game developers, Robin and Matti, are also doing art to some degree, especially tweak art and doing information design art. but we have had art directors in various projects, but it's proven to be easier to let the lead artist also be the art director. And me as a game designer, I found I take interest in how the game looks and feels, but I want to hand over the final decision. Also, when I'm a creative director for all our games, I want to hand the green lighting and final decision to the artist, because I want to give them that, credibility and that responsibility. So I will push for things, but I won't finally decide it. And it's a group decision, and we work with something called mood boards, which we have on some digital service. And there we can just throw in different photos, and usually we have them sorted in like this character and a bunch of photos for that character, the board, a bunch of photos for that board, which could be just from films, it could be other board games, it could be persons, it could be feelings, it could be anything, colors. So we use these mood boards quite a bit, and I find them very useful to communicate with artists actually.
Interesting.
And we are now going to use our internal artists, and maybe the setup we have now, and maybe also use some external artists, and the same thing there. I think we will continue with a similar communication and level of who decides what.
Is your artist required to play the game before they start creating the artwork?
Yes, I would say that's a requirement. You don't need to play it many times, and you don't need to play it, for full. You don't need to, when you play test the game, a mistake you often do is you start from the beginning and play all the way through it. Nice, but that's just one or maybe 40 different kinds of play tests you need to do. And the artists, as in our play, sometimes the artists just listen in when we play test the game and sit there and draw their thing. That's typically something artists are good at, working on their art while half and or to some degree paying attention to a gameplay going on, and maybe ask a question, and that's definitely a time effective way for the artist to understand the game and yet continue doing what they want. But a bunch of times in the beginning, for sure, maybe 1-2 times, and a few times during the process they're expected to play the game. Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
That I have to say one more thing about that. When we have externals, that's something we need to, since we do quite a complicated game, that's something we need to tell them early on, because we can't pay them for their learning process. So we always say, this is the game, and if you want to work with this, you have to put the time it takes you to understand this game, because some people take much longer. So that's just your investment. We will pay you for the art time. We will not pay you for playing or learning the game.
Oh,
and
interesting.
We say that up front. If they like that, then fine. If they don't, well, then we can't work together.
Oh, that's interesting. Thank you. How do you feel about negative game reviews after you've spent all that time designing and publishing a game?
Yeah, well, I think in a way it's sad, depending on what people say. If they just ramble out something negative, which is, sometimes it's about the game, but sometimes about them wanting attention or something like that. But that's usually not found in serious reviews. And having said that, of course, it hurts to some degree. I am extremely resilient when it comes to criticism, and I am totally convinced that the criticism is also valuable. And someone giving me criticism, they give me time and they give me trust. So I thank that. I thank them for doing that, and truly, honestly. And you need to make mistake, and you can't see your own mistakes all the time. It's very hard to proofread your own text, for example. Someone else can proofread it easier. Same thing with games. Even though I might know much more about game design than some person who's playing it, if they find something that I didn't find, it isn't strange. It's hard to see it yourself. So I welcome all kind of feedback, negative as well as positive. It's always good if it's said in a positive manner. You don't need to be mean, but I am resilient. And if you don't do mistakes, then you never progress. If you don't fall off your bike, you will never learn to bike.
Kind of going along with that same question, I'm assuming you use Board Game Geek, yeah?
I use Board Game Geek, yes I do.
So With the ratings that you see on the games, does that impact you in any way? Like, do you get upset if a game is rated below a certain number? Like, what rating are you trying to strive for when you design a game?
Yeah, well, that's with such sites such as Board Game Geek, for example. There's always the color code. So some you don't under in their case, I think 7.0. Under that, they get the grade gets another color, and that really makes it stand out, and people just skim through. So I know it's important for people with these grades, and sometimes I don't understand why some games get low grades and some get high grades. And I have a few games which I felt sometimes it's okay. Yeah, we didn't go all the way, and that seems like a fair grade. But some games I felt like they were kind of misunderstood. But then again, Board Game Geek is a certain kind of games that is promoted and a certain kind of game that people like. You also have the factor of how the rating is done, and there is like a certain number of it's favoring a certain type of not type of game, but you need a certain number of. There's a mechanic behind the rating system which is not known, and I understand why, because you shouldn't be able to game it, but it's also somehow,
I think people can game it though, right? So for example, when
it shouldn't be easy to game it,
yeah,
but
so
they still can.
Yeah, like when Brass Birmingham was competing with Gloomhaven for the #1 spot, all of a sudden you had people creating new accounts to upvote their game that they wanted to see #1 and downvote the other. So you do get a lot of people just spam rating and doing all kinds of things like that. And I don't think that there's any form of regulation on Board Game Geek for that.
No, there is not. And I know I saw one time, sometimes I look at this, and I saw that one of my games that hasn't it's the first game we ever made, so it hasn't been sold in so many copies, I think 1,500 or 1,000, something like that. It's called Hird, and it's also a Viking game. But that's a 2-player abstract. And then it got decent rating, but 2-player abstract is not really performing well on Board Game Geek. But then I saw someone put 1 on it. No, why is this really? This is not a 1. This game is rather good. And then I checked. I just clicked on that person. He had said, I don't know, 2,000 games. He has put 1 on all of them. He has go in and spam click 1 on every game he can see.
Wow.
And I think it was like 1 game that had 10. So it's
That's
probably one of those accounts who wants to. But I don't know why take time to put a 1 on a random game.
People are interesting.
So, but it's so you have to know that these ratings are what they are, and I always look at the comments more than the ratings.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I try to look more at the comments, like when I'm like looking for a board game and I'm like seeing if I'm interested in it or not. Like initially I'll look at the rating, but then I go and see who's actually written a comment that goes along with the rating. Because some people just give ratings to games depending on who designed it or who the publisher is. They might not like the publisher for a reason.
Oh yeah, there's so many. I mean, we all know how many games people generally have that are still in shrink wrap in their and some people put the ratings anyways there. So no, but it's having said that, I would lie if I don't pay attention to the ratings at Board Game Geek and feel good if a game goes from 7.6 to 7.8 or even over 8, and that feels good.
Thank you. Final question. Any advice for aspiring game designers? Like, what advice would you give someone who's just starting out?
Follow your dream. And if this is really something you want to do, just do it. You don't need to make money doing it. To do it, you don't need to wait for the right occasion. You don't need to find a job doing it. You don't need others' approval to say that you are doing this. Think of what you actually want from it. Maybe you want to do a game that sells a lot somewhere. Well, then go for that. Or do you really just want to make a game that tells a story? Then do that. And start doing things. The best thing, which for me comes naturally because this is my job, but if you don't have it naturally, the best thing, this is old news, do a little bit every day. A little bit every day. You try to find that little thing. It goes for anything, like YouTubers, influencers, or if you're going to do training, or if you're writing or art, anything you want to evolve. The more consistent you are, and the more you do like on a daily basis. So, and if going more concretely into it, I would try to make like a short time every day, like 25 minutes or so, and then one session each week, which is a bit longer. Just have that as a minimum. And then I would engage in, try and go to other places and play the game with other people. So go to conventions, go to game stores, and find your community if you're alone at home. If you're comfortable with that, because I think that really helps. Because again, you need to see others and feel others play your game to make it evolve. And the third thing I want to say is the earlier you get the prototype going, the better. And play the prototype, play it in various ways, use different kinds of play test ambitions. Decide what you're testing at a certain time and play it often and do many iterations.
Thank you. Okay, I lied. One more question. What is your favorite game of your own that you've designed?
To be honest, that's the Vendel to Viking that we looked at today, actually. I liked how the different mechanics really blend together, and it's such a rich offering of mechanics that both go together with the theme in a nice way, they go together with each other in a nice way, and you have a game which has very little downtime. It's pretty, it's both point salad but a bit of cutthroat. So it gives you, and it's a ton of replayability in how the game is presented. So it has many aspects that I really like, and it ended up working very well together. So yeah, Vendel to Viking is currently my favorite of my own games.
Nice, thank you. Well,
which is your favorite of my games?
Oh, I've only played 3 of your games so far. So I've played Moomins, Stegaget's, Pax Viking Junior, and Vendel to Viking. And I would say Vendel to Viking is by far my favorite. Just the interaction, the player interaction, the variability, the, having to re-strategize. Just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
And you are also an aspiring game designer.
Yes, but this interview is not about me.
But I hope, what I was about to say, I hope you can get something out of this.
Yes, for sure.
Aspiring game designer. I try to reply to you and anybody who is aspiring game designers.
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you so much for coming back on my channel and answering these questions. And
yeah, it's been a blast.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for bringing these things up, and thank you for giving me and Iron Game Design time on this channel.
Awesome.
It's great. Thank you so much.
Hopefully it won't be the last time.
No, and yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So let's talk about games that I'm backing on Kickstarter. So I think I forgot to mention this last week, but I'm actually backing Point Galaxy and Propolis. Those look good. I will admit that I was not a fan of Point Salad just because of the vegetables. I'm like, I don't really need a game about vegetables. It just didn't, the theme didn't appeal to me. So I never got Point Salad. And then Point City, I think, is one that came out or something like that, which a friend of mine owns, which I played a couple of times and enjoyed. So, but Point Galaxy just looks really cool, and I love space. So, and Propolis just looks really cool. So that's why I'm backing that. And that has 20 days left. And then I'm backing the new expansion to Cat Pax. So that's appropriate for what I'm wearing today. So Cat Pax is a game which I had originally backed with the all-in, with the playmats, and then I backed the Halloween expansion and got the new Halloween playmat that was with that expansion, and now I'm backing the Cat Pax Meow Resort, and I'm also getting the new playmat that comes with that. So yes, I'm accumulating these cat playmats, but I just really, really love this cat artwork. I wonder if this game has a solo mode. I really wish it had a solo mode. So a couple things I noticed that are on Kickstarter, which I'm not backing, which seemed interesting to me. So again, Fame and Fable, like I'm still not backing it. I'm still on the fence. Would love some, feedback if people are getting that. Like at this point, I'm really, really hesitant before backing a game because, how many times have I backed a game which, and I'm guilty of this, like, I'm a reviewer myself, a previewer, and, I've probably, there's people who probably watch my channel and are like, oh, well, you said this game was amazing and then we got it and it wasn't amazing. So like, I'm reading reviews of this game and I'm like, kind of like, skeptical, like, is it that good? Is it, you know, a game that I'm going to want to play more than once? Like, do I really want to spend like $40 or $50 on a one-time experience? I don't know, like, even if the artwork really appeals to me. So that for that reason, I'm not backing Fame and Fable, is because I noticed, I mean, I might change my mind, but at this point, I don't think I'm going to change my mind. Like, I guess I kind of hope that maybe someone else will get it that I know, and then maybe I can play with their copy, or maybe someday I'll have an opportunity to play it like at a convention or something. I don't know. Because one of the reviews that they posted, like one of the quotes that they posted on the campaign page, simply had to do with the artwork. And I'm like, if that's the only quote that they could pull from this previewer, then it makes me a little bit hesitant about wanting to back this game. Yeah, so I'm just trying to find that quote. I can't find it now, but you know, that was just something that kind of stuck out to me. So I'm like, if the game itself is very good, I mean, there are some actually reviews that actually do talk about the gameplay. Like, I guess there's a quote here from Liege Games which says, "Freaking outstanding game." I don't know. So I don't know. I mean, let me know what you guys think, but like, I would appreciate some feedback. So, because right now I'm not backing it and I don't know if I should or not. But yeah, so that was a game that I noticed. Another game, ooh, I just scrolling right now, I just noticed that Energy Empire, the Manhattan Project Energy Empire, the new edition with new artwork, is on Kickstarter. That looks really good. I've played that I played that once and really enjoyed it, the old edition, but I'm not backing it. I don't know. And then I noticed that's this other game from a publisher whose previous game I had backed, Suds and Malone, detective solving crime in 1938 New York. Now I love this time period. I love the aesthetic of this game. It's like mice and cats in it. Like, I really love the aesthetic. It's not fully funded yet. It's at only 56% funded and has 20 days to go, and I'm not sure it will fund. So the game that I had previously backed from this designer is Transmissions, which I do enjoy. It's a little bit on the lighter side of a worker placement game, but I really enjoyed it, and it's got cute, super cute robots and stuff in it. But I'm not backing this just because, based on, you know, the description, I was like, I'm not sure if it's a game I would go to over and over. And yes, the artwork and the theme really appeals to me, but I have to stop backing games just because the artwork and the theme really appeal to me. So not backing that currently, but I do think a friend of mine was planning on backing it. So hopefully if he's backing it, I'll get to play it. And then finally, I wanted to mention one more game, which I'm not backing, but was almost tempted to, which is Violet and the Meddlings of Madame Camilla. So this is an expansion to the game Violet and the Grumpy Niece. So that is a trick-taking game for 2 players. Which I had on my wish list for one of the Essens I think I went to. I kind of was hoping I could find it at one of the Essens, I remember, but in the end I didn't end up looking for it or getting it. And it's a game that's been hard or difficult to get in the USA, I think. So kind of wondering if I should back that or not. Mixed reviews on Board Game Geek, but if you've ever played Violet and the Grumpy Niece, or Niece, I don't know how that's pronounced, let me know what you think. But the artwork really appeals to me, and I do enjoy trick-taking games, but again, it's a 2-player game, and I'm not sure how often I'll get to play a 2-player trick-taking game, because I do live alone. So, you know, so that's always a thing. Because if I'm going to a game night, I'm not going to take 2-player games to a game night where there's multiple people. So yeah. So those were just some other games that seemed interesting, but I'm currently not backing, and I would love your guys' input on whether you're backing them or not, and why or why not, because that might influence my decision. So you guys are influencers for me. So let me know whether you're backing them or not. So let's move on. So I did not do my book club readings because I've been really busy. So I guess I'll just let the cat out of the bag. So since Yoon's been in town, we've been working on a game together, which we're co-designing. So that has eaten up quite a bit of my time. So it's not my elephant game, that's my own personal design, but we are working on another game together. So I figured since he's in town, I need to take advantage of that and focus on game designing rather than other pursuits, which includes book club. So I did not do the readings for this week. So for just as a reminder, for Fiction Book Club for next week, I believe we're reading chapters 17 and 18. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're that far already, right? So yeah. So do chapters 17 and 18 of the fiction book for next week. And then I think I decided that we would just read one chapter at a time because I always fail to read more than one chapter when I assign more than one chapter. So let's read chapter 6 of this nonfiction book for next week, which is Palestine, A 4,000 Year History by Noor Masalha. So chapter 6 of this for next week. So yeah, so that is just a very quick book club update. So let's move on. So I am going to wait until next week to give an update on everything that I've been following along with respect to politics and Palestine and the board game industry, because it's been a couple of weeks and I have more than a couple of weeks since I've talked about that. And yeah, I have a lot of feelings and a lot to say, but I'm not gonna do it in this video because this video is already super long, and just out of respect for the designer who joined on my channel today, I think I should, you know, include a rant in this video as well. So come back next week. I'm sure I'll have a lot to rant about and talk about in terms of, you know, the board game industry and just the general silence I still see towards the ongoing genocide in Palestine. So yeah, so come back next week for that if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on that as usual. So yeah, so let's move on. So this week's question of the week is about Vikings. What is your favorite Viking themed game? Now, until I played Vendel to Viking, I would probably have to say Reavers of Midgard. Really, really, really love the game Reavers of Midgard, although it's been many years since I've played it, and I'm not really sure if I remember that much about it at this point. And then I have a few smaller Viking games like Skora and some other ones. You know, Vikings are a theme that have been done, you know, that has been done so many times. Like there are so many Viking games out there. So I'm sure everyone has a favorite Viking game. And I want to know what your favorite Viking themed game is. So let me know in the comments below and why it's your favorite. Yep, and until next week, bye.